What terrified you as a kid that isn't scary now? My grandmother's wallpaper at night. Opening the shower curtain. I was sure there was some monster or murderer waiting for me behind it. Catching fire. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to get set on fire at all. But the amount of stop, drop, and roll lessons I got in kindergarten made me think this was going to be a once a year thing at minimum. My bedroom as a kid was then converted into a bedroom laundry room, and one wall was covered in a black mirror with gold paint flecks. Very 70s. But at night the shadows combined with the dark glass and paint made me imagine faces, figures, etc. It really scared me, and I would line up my stuffed animals along my bed to protect me. I too was protected by a line of stuffed animals. The monsters didn't get me, so it must have worked. Asking my grandpa a question. Man, was he intimidating to talk to as a kid. Now I love talking to him when I can. Bees and wasps. Paint. I thought if you got it on you it would never come off, since it never came off of the walls. It never came off of the walls. My apartment begs to differ. There was a huge abandoned windmill in our neighborhood that once pumped water from the river. At random. The windmill blades would start to turn at night. Never in the day. As kids that used to hang out nearby, it felt like the windmill was haunted as it came to life at dark hours. Probably a result of the metal cooling down after a day in the sun. Edit. How is this my most upvoted comment on Reddit? Also an expiation for those asking. I was assuming a metal axle which would expand from heat during the day, preventing rotation. Then at night when it cools and shrinks again, the release of tension causes it to spin. That worms would come out of my shower head. A snake would come out of the toilet and bite me while I was sitting on it. The Beast from the Sandlot. Freaked me out back then. But now that I can see how low budget the dog looks, still an amazing movie by the way, I find it a bit less scary. The video for Mitchell Jackson's Thriller. Thunderstorms. I used to hide under the covers and could only run from the room between flashes. Now I will sit at the window and watch. I love a good thunderstorm now. All it took was a very weird 9-ish-year-old me to stand at the window during a big storm and yell things like, "Is that all you've got?" Yeah. Kinda like Lieutenant Dan, but before I ever saw Forrest Gump. The little doll guys from the movie 9. Jesus randomly showing up during dinner. I thought he'd use the door. Clearly I was raised to fear the wrath of God. Edited. Thank you for my first awards. Flushing the toilet. The dark. The movie Jeepers Creepers. Large Marge. Opening a can of Pillsbury biscuits. Just waiting for that pop. After unraveling the paper. Spooky. I was always afraid of Baby Bell cheese. Not sure why. But I'm over it now that I'm older. A few months ago I bought some Babble at a gas station in a tiny town while on a road trip. It tasted off and I noticed that it expired in 2018. I am now afraid of Babble. Running up the basement stairs after turning off the light. My ever-growing apathy towards life took out most fears. Foot hanging off the bed and monsters can get me? Good. I have work in the morning. Hades from Hercules. Thistles and cacti. Basically any plant that had nasty spikes. Whenever I'd walk in a grass field and see a tiny thistle plant near my foot, I would stop dead in my tracks and call for help. Nowadays, I still get uneased at the thought of falling onto those things. Especially the giant thistles. Being spanked. It's gone from being a punishment to being a reward. The Bermuda Triangle. Escalators. Literally my own shadow. The THX logo. Edit. Thank you. My first award. Cicadas. Or more precisely, their sound. Also dragonflies. For the same reason. Gorillas. That SpongeBob episode as a kid scarred me. I would have to close my eyes once that part came on, and my brother had to tell me when it was over. My uncle, knowing I was scared of it, told me killer gorillas lived in the dark part of the basement. So every time I went down there for something, I'd sprint full speed back up the stairs. Velociraptors. That pipe's screensaver from Windows. I had nightmares getting crushed by them. When I rarely get them now, I sometimes can use them for lucid dreaming. So I win? The Chucky. Nothing. Everything is 1,000,000 times scarier now than it was when I was a kid. Thanks for the awards, folks. Glad to see I'm not the only one who thinks being a grown-up is scarier than we could have possibly imagined. Sun death. Also, I cried when I saw a black woman for the first time. My husband's cousin saw a black man for the first time whilst in a store. He was maybe 6-8 years old. He yelled, "Look, Mom. A Michael Jackson." At the top of his lungs. Not Michael Jackson. A Michael Jackson. We still tease him about it. His mom was of course mortified. The area was not very diverse in the 80s. A stuffed dead pheasant my dad shot while hunting. It scared me so much he had to keep it in the garage. Seeing a scary thumbnail on a YouTube video and randomly think of it throughout the day. Thanks to Goosebumps. I was afraid of loofahs, sponges, and those little poofball things you wash off with. I didn't get over this stupid fear into adulthood after I got married. E.T. I swore he lived in my bedroom closet. I watched the movie with my cousins on Thanksgiving when I was little, and to this day I've never watched the whole thing. It doesn't terrify me anymore, but I just don't have any desire to watch it. Dinosaurs. I knew they were extinct, but I was still terrified of a T-Rex pulling the roof off my house and eating me. The space under the bed. The movie Mars Attacks. Balloons. Specifically, balloons popping. When I was really young, my dad popped one near my face as a joke, but it really traumatized me. I hated going to birthday parties because there were always games where you had to pop a balloon in some form. Fantasia Mickey. Pretty sure it was a nightmare that started it, but I was terrified of him for several years. My sisters then thought it was funny to hide a little figurine of him in my room and move it around at random to scare me even more. The Unsolved Mysteries theme music. Hearing that, then stories of missing kids and ghosts led to many sleepless nights as a kid. Adult me binge watches the show now. SHRKS. Quicksand. The Candyman movie. Now I can see it's not scary at all. Are you afraid of the dark? I still don't understand how that was a children's show. Werewolves. My dad basically traumatized me with them when I was 8. To the point where if my brothers were outside as it started to get dark, I would run to the window screaming for them to come back inside. Now I find them pretty cool and even plan on getting a tattoo of one. IT. Pennywise. I used to hate getting my computer fixed too. Oh wait. Furbies. It's less scary when you're prepared for them. The potential to have to use stop, drop, and roll. It seemed like every year in elementary school they have the fire department come visit and do a presentation about fire safety. I just sort of realized as I got older how unlikely it would be for me to be on fire. Also quicksand. The living spaghetti that crawls around Swedish chef's kitchen as he bangs it with his frying pan used to freak me the FCK out as a kid. Bad grades. Can't get bad grades if you're not in school anymore. Being 30. When you're a teenager, 30 is old. Hang in there. 70 is great. It was hell getting here. But now I'm on easy street. Coffee pot. Makes a boiling gurgling sound. 5-year-old me waking up. WTF is in this house? Talking to people. Weeds. When I would swim in a lake, I always thought the weeds were like the arms of the lake and were coming to grab my legs. Chucky. It used to be scary doll with a knife. Now it's doll with knife. When your greatest fear is plastic that you can kick and send flying, it's no longer a fear. Death. The opposite for me actually. I wasn't scared of death then because I didn't understand it. But now I do. Toilets. The dark. I was irrationally afraid of it when I was a small child. Now it's what I can't see in the dark that troubles me. There are significant gaps in the streetlights where I live. And if I'm walking at night in the winter I'm afraid I'll slip on some unseen ice. The Bermuda Triangle. Thought that was going to be a big problem when I was a kid. The dark. Now. I love it. But I slept with a nightlight till I was almost 12. Keeping my closet door opened when going to bed used to freak me out. Report cards. F-king nightmare. If I got a B I'd hear why wasn't it an A? The part in Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island when the ghost pirate shows up in the video footage. Tremors. Strangers. Drugs. Drugs is the big one. Most strangers aren't out to get you. Nightmare at 10,000 feet, Twilight Zone. I mean tornadoes are still scary now if you're in the path of one, but when I was a kid I obsessed over them to the point of developing OCD. So I'd definitely say I've improved. The FBI warnings on VHS tapes. For some reason I connected that with the infomercials for random junk you could call and buy that would say our agents are standing by, thinking that FBI agents were standing outside my house to make sure I didn't sell copies of the tapes that I owned and use the money to buy Time Life cassette collections and crappy kitchen gadgets. Wizard of Oz flying monkeys. Riding in a car going down gravel roads. I used to think a kidney was a knee shaped like a kid where the kidney lives in the body. People who were 5 years older than me. They were so old. They had facial hair and were super tall. Now I'm friends with people 20 or 30 years older than me. My first day of high school left me stunned. All the senior boys looked so old. My mom still makes fun of me because when I came home that day I told her that boys had beards. Animatronics. Okay, they're still kinda scary.